All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. And in this video, we are going to be in the 135 pound and the 147 pound division, talking about what one of the best trainers in boxing over the last 20 years had to say about Shakur Stevenson, Jaron Ennis, and the arguments that are being made about them by boxing fandom and the hypocrisy being slung around at these two young, excellent fighters for the benefit of people that are not as good as they are. But at least in one case. In the other case, guy might be just as good. Can't lie about that. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to be talking about the aftermath of Shakur Stevenson and his fight with Edwin de los Santos, and talk about comments made by one of the leading traders in the world, Kevin Cunningham, former trainer of Corey Spinks, trainer of, I do believe he's training Adrian Bronner right now. A lot of different world champions, top contenders. Kevin Cunningham has trained, and he said some things on Twitter yesterday. I retweeted it. If you haven't seen it, go to Twitter for non-boxing on Twitter. You can see the repost there of what Kevin Cunningham said. You can also follow Kevin Cunningham on his social media so you can get whatever tidbits he's putting out there, because, like I said, a very knowledgeable guy. And he pointed something out to me that I'd seen, but to hear it from somebody of his status, I thought it was important to talk about, because there's a lot of unfairness going on around Shakur Stevenson right now, and which could very well, I don't think it will, but very well do harm to his career in an unjust fashion. And the same way that people tried to do the same thing, or are trying to do the same thing to Jaron Boots Ennis. Now, before I get into the details of it, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell icon so you can know when we release more videos, which we do every day of the week for the most part, 365 days a year. We talk a lot of boxing over here. We do talk a lot about specific weight classes like the lightweight division, the welterweight division, the super middleweight division. And we talk about everything else when it's brought up in live streams that we do in the morning. So, if you want to talk boxing, we can do it. Only thing we do is we don't really talk a lot about, below the weight class of 118. 118 and up, it's all fair game. But let's get into this, and thank you to everybody that supports in the super thanks and of the lives of these videos, and the super thanks and cash app of the videos that we do in the live streams. But let's get into this, man, because this has absolutely it's been fun, but it's been ridiculous at the same time. Shakur Stevenson wins a fight against Edwin de los Santos. A boring fight. There's no way to get around it. It was a boring fight. Not a great performance by Shakur Stevenson, especially considering the expectations around Shakur Stevenson and his own declarations of greatness and superiority. If you are that good, you should be able to whoop that dude like a lot better than you did in that fight. However, he won the fight. In my opinion, he did not come close to losing that fight. And for whatever reason, it was just a bad night. At least that's what we know right now. If you recall, Jaron Ennis also experienced the same criticism against Karen Kukadjian when he fought Karen Kukadjian the fight before last. He recently had a Romy and Villa fight where he demolished Romy and Villa. So I think some of that stuff had quieted down, but people still point out the fight that took place with Karen Kukadajian. What Mr. Cunningham is shared is that look and compare these two fighters and look at the criticism that they're getting from boxing fans. And it is what you call damned if you do, damned if you don't. In the first instance, you have Shakur Stevenson, who moved around the ring, used defense, jabbed, never really stayed still for Edwin De Los Santos to be able to land a punch on him. Edwin De Los Santos was never able to cut off the ring on Shakur Stevenson to make him fight. And the conversation all revolves around the inability of Shakur Stevenson to stand and fight, or the unwillingness to stand and fight. No criticism for Karen Kukadajian and his inability to actually score punches, land punches on Shakur Stevenson. It's flipped with Jaron Ennis. Jaron Ennis is walking down Karen Kukadajian. Karen Kukadajian is not throwing punches very much, moving around, never really letting his feet set. And matter of fact, I would say the difference between Shakur Stevenson and Karen Kukadajian is that, and to people that talk about CompuBox numbers, is CompuBox doesn't talk about whether or not your feet were set or not. Karen Kukadajian never set his feet. He was throwing punches, sure, but he was throwing punches while he was moving, and those punches had absolutely nothing on them. And the impact on Jaron Ennis was probably lighter than the impact of the keys, the fingers on the keys of the people that were pressing the CompuBox buttons. He was that non-committal with those punches. In the line of the conversation, though, you see again, just like Shakur, but the opposite way. Jaron is criticized for not being able to cut off the ring. Karen Kukadajian is not, in very little conversation about the fact that Karen Kukadajian never stood and fought Jaron Ennis. And both get castigated in the media because of the performance, but for the opposite reason. So that's a double standard. What do you want? If you're going to criticize, if you're going to take into consideration, now I understand why people do this, because the big name is Jaron Ennis. The big name is Shakur Stevenson. The favorite is Jaron Ennis. The favorite is Shakur Stevenson. However, if you are going to look at the fight for itself and you are a quote unquote, as they say, fight fan, then you have to acknowledge, if you acknowledge that a fighter, if you don't criticize somebody for moving around, and you see that the problem with them moving around was that the guy can't cut off the ring, then the problem is still with it. Then that's problem, if that existed for Jaron Ennis, should also exist for Karen Kukadajian, for Edwin De Los Santos, but it didn't, right? If the problem of moving around the ring and not sitting down to fight is a problem for Shakur Stevenson, then it should have been a problem for Karen Kukadajian as well. But it's not. It is completely put on the fighter, the young fighter, who gets in there with a guy that either can't do it or won't do it. In the case of Karen Kukadajian, he wouldn't do it. In the case of Edwin De Los Santos, he couldn't do it. He couldn't cut the ring off on Shakur and prevent Shakur from throwing jabs at him and scoring when he wanted to and getting out when he didn't. Karen Kukadajian wouldn't sit down and see if he could land significant shots on Jaron Ennis to discourage him from coming forward. It's just a double standard, and I think that it is it's unfair to both of those fighters because anybody looking at him, first of all, I don't think Shakur might have lost a round or two. I didn't have him losing many rounds. Jaron did not lose any rounds. And at the end of the day, man, you win the fight, you move on. I find it very hard for people to condemn somebody off of a win. Now, if they had sat there and got beat up, got knocked down a couple times, then I can understand people ripping at them as far as what their status is in the boxing and what their potential is. But not when you get in there with somebody that either has no ability to stop you and force you to fight, or somebody that refuses to fight with you. I think those situations just wind up being a wash. But Kevin Cunningham, man, I appreciated what he had to say. Wanted to share it with you. Please let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.